as a creator, repetition is your friend, because I know this is what I'm getting from you.
Yeah.
Does it mean that I can't now clean other things or can't do other things? Of course you can. Does it mean you can't bring brands into your content? Of course you can. But it's in the bubble, it's in the capsule of this is me, this is what I do, what I know.
Yeah.
She didn't make money for 5 years. So if you're complaining after 2 years you haven't made money, cool down. Like,
yeah. Although I wouldn't call Ryan Reynolds an influencer.
No,
he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
But the fact is that there are influencers bigger than him in terms of like social following. Yeah, getting paid for your time and your image can only get you so far. But if it can use your image and your influence to push products, you can sell products to millions of people over and over again. Hi everyone, my name is Leia. You're welcome to Culture Connects, the podcast about creativity, marketing and business. And today with me is the delectable Shaki Akinjobi. She is the director of influencer marketing, UK and EMEA at Burson. Welcome, Shaki.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. So today we're going to be talking about the future of influencer marketing. I mean, influencer marketing has been around for about 10 years now, I think, or maybe even like 15, right? But it's really blown up over the last 10.
Yeah.
And you have worked with a lot of brands and influencers globally for different marketing campaigns. So before we even dive into the future, of course, it's important to understand how influencer marketing works, how brands can choose influencers, how influencers can prepare themselves to be chosen by brands or collaborate with brands. So just take us a little bit into your world and how these things work.
Sure. I think this space is really interesting. You say 10 years, but if we actually think about what influencer marketing is, it's been around forever.
Of course.
And when I say forever, I mean like in terms of people always recommending something. Most people decide on where they live, what they want to eat, what they want to wear.
It's like word of mouth.
Just based off what your friend has told you, or what anybody has told you, or someone that you trust has told you, right?
Yeah.
So when I think of influencer marketing, it's just the evolution of that. I think I've been fortunate enough to be in this space for a little while now, about 12 or 13 years.
That's a long time.
Just a little while.
That's a long time. You're showing your age.
I know, oh my gosh. But I think to that, I've just seen the different avenues and how it's evolved over time, like how budgets have changed. I've worked in TV, I've worked in digital, social, and now I guess over the last 5 or 6 years, focused
How are the budgets changing?
How are they changing?
Yeah.
Different brands operate differently. However, I think where most brands would do above the line advertising, so TV, press, radio, they understand that to reach their target audience, that's not how people are consuming content, media, information. So you can see the diversification of that spend into, I guess for me it was first programmatic and digital display. They were like, oh, digital internet, we need to create ads. Yeah. I actually find it quite funny because when was the last time you clicked on an ad banner?
A banner ad, yeah.
Yeah, even then I was like, how often are people actually clicking through? So seeing how it's kind of evolved now to understanding, okay, this isn't, I guess, consumer behavior. Yeah. How are people making those informed decisions? How are people considering a brand? How are people being made aware of a brand? Using influencers and using third-party spokespeople is that channel. So you can see that brands are catching up and understanding and just putting more money into that space, which I guess before they were quite nervous about. Yeah. But it does feel like an industry that I think has now really understood its value, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the audience, right? It's you and I that consume this content, right? And I mean, sometimes I see some collaborations between brands and influencers and I'm like, this is crap.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I see one and I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I'll buy this. So what do consumers really want from influencers? And I think that we can talk about this from a generational perspective because what the Gen Z want is different from what millennials want. It's different from what the Gen X want.
Yeah.
Different from what the boomers want. And I think it's very important for brands to realize that it's not a one size fits all. Yeah. So, you know, from your experience, and you can talk about some of the campaigns that you worked on and the results, you know, what do consumers really want from influencers?
I think overall, I would say consumers are looking for authenticity. Like you said, you will believe in a campaign if you're like, I get it. I understand why so-and-so is doing X with so-and-so. When it doesn't work, it's like, why is so-and-so doing something with so-and-so?
Yeah.
And I think that is just a baseline, irrespective of generation, authenticity. You want it to feel credible.
Yeah.
So when we now break it down into demographics of age group, Gen Z, like, they are the generation that grew up purely on social, right? When you think millennials, we still had the opportunity to
use landlines.
Yeah, use the landline.
Yeah.
You know, you have to knock
play outside.
Play outside, knock and visit your friend. So just how we, I guess, consume information is slightly different, but we also, I think we're an interesting generation in that we've experienced it firsthand. But then when you look at the boomers, I think for them it's a scary world. Internet and how they navigate internet is very different to them. It's not their natural habitat. And I recently saw a campaign for O2, and it was all about fraud and being scammed online over the phone and things like that. And they used a nanny AI bot to kind of tell the message. And it's because, listen, fraud happens to everyone irrespective of age. However, I think the older you are, the more likely you may be coerced and vulnerable to believing it's true. So it was targeted to them, but it's something that everyone can relate to. So again, going back to influencer, I think first of all, you want it to feel authentic to the brand and the people that are speaking to it. But as an individual, it's like, am I consuming this content because I want to learn something, because I want to buy something? And we can get on to how influencers should operate, but I think at first it's like, why is this message being created? I've worked on a range of different campaigns, and I think from a UK perspective, over the last, I'd say 5-6 years, influencers that have really captured attention from, I guess, what I'm interested in as a woman. Beauty, fashion, things like that. So you think of someone like Melissa's Wardrobe, always kills it in the game, but that's because irrespective of a brand partnership, she's always sharing what she likes. She's always sharing her recommendations. So it means it's consistent. It feels authentic, right? Because so when she has got a paid deal behind it, she's always telling you what she likes and also what she doesn't like. So I doubt, I'm yet to hear her have a paid collaboration where she says she doesn't like the brand. However, for the most part,
they'll get their money back.
It makes sense. Another person that's kind of killing it at the moment is Uche Notori. She is a beauty influencer, and she understands what her Gen Z audience love. They want to understand how to have the best flawless base. You're probably thinking, what am I talking about?
I know what a base is. Rate me, man.
It's like, oh, you know what a base is, so cool. But she understands the foundation. Okay.
Come on, man. Slay.
But to that point, she understands that's what they want to see, and she uses high-end products, low-end products. So again, when a brand is partnering with her, they know that they're going to get maximum engagement because that's what she does organically. I always say to influencers, if you can't do this without paid, then don't do it. True. It should feel, if there wasn't any paid media behind this, a brand isn't paying with this feature in your feed.
If it's not going to work without paid, then just leave it.
Then just don't do it. It doesn't feel authentic.
That's an interesting one.
And it'll feel like, I know she's doing this for a check, which is fine. Listen, it's not for me to tell people how to make money, but I think in terms of if you want to build your brand as an influencer, if you would post this content without any money behind it because it's a genuine interest, do it and continuously do it. And then when the brands recognize that, it feels like oh my gosh, of course so and so is meant to be doing this. So
I think that's an interesting perspective, but it's also very interesting that you mentioned authenticity because I recently read some reports by Sprout Social on influencer marketing, and in that report it said that only 35% of Gen Z consumers say authenticity matters to them. Only 35. And they explain that compared to older generations who care far more about it, that the Gen Zs sort of grew, like you said, into the internet, and they know this is a transactional thing. they really just want to be entertained.
Yeah.
They know you got paid. If they like it, they buy. If they don't, they don't buy.
Yeah.
So again, I think that it's about generations. You know, the millennials be like, oh yeah, can I trust him?
The thing is, the Gen Z will cuss you out. They're the first, the people to be on their phone saying, this is rubbish, this is whack. So I think maybe authenticity, I don't know, this is maybe a personal perspective. I think authenticity is what everyone looks for, right? But to your point, why am I consuming this content? I'm not necessarily consuming it because I want to purchase this thing. I might just want to be entertained.
Yeah.
I'm following this burner account or this, like the Shade Borough or something, not because I'm going to learn anything from them, but they're going to have interesting gossip. Like, I want to listen to it. Insta Blog Niger, like, you know, half the stuff on there is probably made up, but you still want to listen to it because it's entertaining.
So I think the entertainment factor comes first, and then if they just so happen to like resonate with the product, then they buy. You know, so you might have like a polarizing figure, you know, trying to push a product, you know, and yes, this figure is not perfect. This person has done a few things that are questionable, but you know, it just happens that I like the product and I was entertained. I might buy. So I think that that's like the insight that we can gain from there.
It's really interesting, like, at these partnerships, right? I don't know if you saw the recent Jacquemus one with Auntie Remy, I think her name is, or something like that.
Oh yes, the woman with the bus. Yes, that has really gone viral. Looked like the bus was about to hit her, and then she's just standing there.
Right?
Yes,
that's her spiel. That's what she always posts on TikTok. It works, and Jacquemus, for a brand that most people know the brand, but it's considered a premium luxury brand. To almost partner with someone like her, it's quite interesting because you just almost assume they partner with a luxury influencer, right?
Yeah.
But to launch their London flagship store using her, that's epic, because again, what they've done is they've tapped into trending culture, they've tapped into London culture, they've tapped into what people
are talking about,
and they've created something that they haven't changed her content, and that's another thing.
It's exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing, but in a way that's funny, that's credible. I recently looked at the stats, and I think over the last month, that's been their highest viewed
content
TikTok post. And it's because you love it, because you're like, yes, Auntie, get the bag, but you're also like, okay, the brand understands this audience that they're trying to speak to. So back to the earlier point, the authenticity factor isn't purely like, oh, this makes sense, like perfect, but it's more like,
it's just
I
like,
get it.
It's organic.
It's organic.
You know, it's consistent with what this person would usually do.
Exactly.
It's not really out of place. I was watching the founder of Jacquemus on the Business of Fashion page saying that, you know, when he wanted to start his brand, he just knew that he wanted to be talked about.
Yeah.
And you can see it in his advertising. Have you seen those bag-shaped buses?
Yeah.
His campaigns are bag-shaped buses. So I think, you know, it's using that lady is quite consistent with wanting to be talked about and just something very like interesting.
And it doesn't feel forced, right? Because
it's not.
It's how the brand aesthetic is, and if you want talkability, you're gonna go with the brands or with the partners that can garner that talkability. But again, I think what I liked about it is they didn't say, now do something different.
It was just
she
the same
did
thing.
exactly what she did.
Yeah.
I think every time you're like, oh my gosh, you're about to get hit, but obviously the bus doesn't. She's obviously figured out her angles so that way she doesn't get hit by the bus.
Yeah.
But again, it makes sense because she's in London, she's a Londoner, she's always like the different buses, and to say, hey, they're here now. I thought it was a really fun collab.
Yeah, I think that was a successful one, which funny enough, my next question was going to be about, you know, successful campaigns and not so successful campaigns. You know, what works and what doesn't. I mean, I think a popular example is like the Dove Detox Your Feet campaign, which has been on for a while, right? I mean, what they did was ditch, you know, the super filtered models, and then they used like real people who, you know, their real bodies. You see the freckles, you see the spots, you see the cellulite, you see whatever. But I think, you know, it just helped people just reduce the pressure, because there's so much pressure that people face online every day. They jump on the gram and it's just perfect looking people,
yeah.
but then these perfect looking people are only perfect online. So you know, the Detox Your Feed campaign just try to like reduce that pressure, and then let people just, you know, embrace their true selves. And I think it really got a lot of like positive feedback. And then on the flip side, there was a campaign by Shein actually, where they flew some influencers to their factory, and you know, for people to sort of like feel like, yes, we have good policies, no child labor and everything, but somehow people weren't buying it, you know, and there was backlash. So it's just like, you know, how do you know? I mean, when the marketing team was doing that, I'm sure they were like, yes, let's show them transparency and everything, and I'm sure they thought they were on the right track, right? And then for the Detox Your Feed campaign, I'm sure some C-suite guys might have said, that's not a good idea. Nobody wants to see that. So how do you know? You know, what to do and what not to do?
I think everything for me as a marketeer comes down to human insight. I think why the Dove campaign works and their whole thing is real beauty, real people. And they've been on a journey with this. This is not something that they've started.
Yeah, it's been over a decade actually.
So you know, they've got equity to talk about it.
Facts.
As a brand, you'd like to think, listen, I'm not a scientist, I don't know every single ingredient in a Dove product, but for the most part, it's positioned itself as a sustainable, well-rounded, pure product. So them talking about real beauty makes sense because their product itself is to support natural skincare. So I think it was really nice because I think, like we mentioned, if we look at Gen Z, they have grown up on it where everything's filtered, everything's sensationalized. So having a brand like Dove, who is a heritage brand, who's got so much skin in the game, saying, like, you don't have to look like that, you can look like this. That's built off of human insight to know that actually people feel self-conscious or they're berated by perfect imagery and it feels overwhelming. So by them being able to tap into that, it's like, okay, it makes sense for Dove to be talking about this, and they have the product and the brand to back it up.
So you're saying like the brand should sort of resonate the message that they're preaching. So
absolutely.
you shouldn't just like say something, you know how they say, show me, don't tell me type of thing. So you shouldn't be saying something and then when people look under the hood, it's just like trash.
That's the thing, exactly that, because if not, it doesn't make sense, right? And you'll be called out on it. And we live in an era now that everyone's got access to internet, so anyone
they're gonna, one thing they're gonna do is call you out.
Whether it's on X, whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, wherever. And you just don't want that. And I think, to your point, the reason that Shein had such backlash is because you are a fast fashion brand. And that is fine. Like,
I just downloaded Shein, by the way. I'm looking for some cheap deals.
Listen, that's fine. Everyone knows their lane. I think just be honest about it. I think what grinds my gears as a marketeer is when I'm like, this doesn't make sense, or what's the human insight? I always say it's about the brand tree, the human insights, and then everything else you can work around that, the cultural nuances, because human insights plus culture can make it like, okay, this now feels like a really apt campaign. Recently, Oatly had the Gigs campaign. It came out, I think, this week. And I think from a cultural perspective, people loved it. Gigs is a national treasure. If you're into, like, even if you're not into
talking
like,
UK
music, like he's well known, right? And for a Swedish brand to tap into that, and I think the insight there was Gigs is lactose intolerant. A lot of black people and people just generally are lactose.
What hard man? Lactose intolerant, can't drink milk and that.
Milk, but you know you want to enjoy your dessert still. You still want to enjoy your custard.
So what does he use?
So you use
the oat milk,
right?
That's weak.
No, oh my god! Listen, Gigs, if you see
I hate oat milk. Look, drink the lactose, deal with the problems later.
Absolutely
but
not.
shout out to Oatly.
You know, I'm an oat milk girl, so you know I'll take the oat milk. So I loved it because again it played into human insights, right?
Jokes apart, I like the idea a lot.
That some people have that issue, but you still want to enjoy the finer things. Why should I not be able to enjoy something because of my dietary challenges? But I'm not preaching to those that, oh, I'm vegan, it's bad to kill animals, and like everything should be natural from the earth. That's not who they're trying to speak to. They're trying to speak to the everyday consumer. So by being able to again tap into human insight, that people that want to enjoy Oatly aren't just the vegans, aren't just the vegetarians. why do people enjoy, or what are the products that people want to enjoy, and tapping into a cultural icon like gigs.
Yeah.
Again, it's such smart marketing. So loads of these. I can go on forever.
I have two questions there. So I like the idea about
Even though you
insights.
don't like Oatly, okay.
To be honest, like sometimes there's just I drink oat milk. Sometimes I won't lie. But yeah, like insights I agree with. So just are you telling me like how should brands get insights? So
Data.
our agency obviously when we want to work on a campaign, we can have a focus group.
Yeah.
We can do a survey on SurveyMonkey, get some insights, show them. But a lot of brands might not go the data route, right?
Yeah.
Just telling you,
Like
they might not,
wrong.
So how should brands
Yeah.
source their insights? Also, when it comes to culture, why did they know to choose gigs? Why gigs? Gigs is what grime,
Yeah.
right? Grime, hard guy, why gigs and something like oat milk? It's almost like night and day.
Why?
But sometimes that's the secret sauce, right?
Exactly.
So how do you know? So tell me about insights and tell me about how do insights determine the choice of the influencer?
But the insight part is really interesting. I think as a marketer, brand, agency, if you're not looking at your data, then you're already failing, right? So Burton, the company I work for, we have a huge data and insights team. Like we don't put a campaign forward or an idea forward unless it's rooted in data and insights and strategy, right? And there's so many different tools and platforms. Should I start plugging them now? But Brandwatch is one of them.
Yeah, you can give them shout outs. You just send us a check later.
Tubular. There's some of these really good platforms that allow you to understand how consumers operate. They do like survey panels and across like millions and millions of respondents and across different categories, different verticals, and it's constantly happening. And because they've been around for so long, YouGov as well, they have a wealth of information. So that at a first glance or at the first point allows you to understand how do your consumers that you're trying to reach think about a particular topic, what's the sentiment, what's the idea. Using that, being able to, you've been able to distill that oat milk, your barrier is people think it's just for vegans. I don't work on Oatly, they're not my brand, so I don't know. But hypothetically, thinking strategically, how could they have come up with this execution? You want to appeal to people outside of the vegans, outside of vegetarians, you want to appeal to masses. A lot of people are making different dietary choices, not because of health reasons specifically, i.e. I'm a vegan, but just because they like flexibility. So if you understand that and you're like, okay, but what are some of people's challenges, or what are the barriers to being able to try something like Oatly custard? It's like, okay, if I'm going to have something that I enjoy like a dessert, do I just take the pain of having it with the lactose and enjoy my cheesecake now? But you're like, do I really want to do that? No, I still want to enjoy this product without the challenges later. So you understand, okay, there's a product there because you want to make something that other people can still consume, and again, they're not the vegan warriors. They are people that enjoy meat, but they just maybe have this issue, or even if they don't have the issue, they just want an alternative. And then so that's the insight, and then the cultural part of it is Giggs has said it, and if you're a fan of him, and maybe I don't know if he said it recently, but he has said he likes custard, he likes desserts, things like that. So, but he has an issue with lactose. So again, internally, there's social listening, which is again understanding what people are saying on X, what people are saying on Instagram, what are those conversations about, being able to identify those people. And I guess the last thing I think for me would be, it's very easy to partner up with an athlete. That would be very, straight shooter, an athlete that's nutritious, that before my next game, I go into training mode and I cut out dairy.
That's your business.
That just again makes
Can't
it
run
feel
to save my life.
very boring. But it's just that you want to now they probably want to reach a Gen Z audience. That was maybe a target group for them. They want to reach a broader audience. They want to feature work with someone that's culturally relevant. And I'm sure maybe I assume they have multiple people that they tested with, and however the creative director chose Giggs.
That's another thing, testing.
Yeah, so those, and I think, but it's testing, it's data, it's insights, having the perfect collaboration of all those things. That's how you get really cool campaigns like that.
I think also, you know, when the brand looks at the audience that they want to reach, they have like buyer personas, and then they try and figure out who would you listen to, who influences you, who do you like, and then they probably shop around, have a few options, and then they choose one that resonates with that audience, because obviously you need to think about who do we want to buy our oat milk, or what are the markets that we haven't really penetrated. Okay, we've ticked out athletes, we've ticked out vegans. Now we want to like increase our market share. Where is the blue ocean? You know, so all these people that are not vegans, how can we get out of the meat steak eating market? And they'll be like, all right, Gigs is a hard man, you know. You will have never thought that he'll use oat milk. Let's use him to influence his people, and then, you know, get them on our side.
Practical. They're like, if this is a Gen Z younger millennial group, who do they listen to? What interests them? What captivates their attention? And you know, Gigs is called the landlord. Like, if they're trying to tap into a UK audience, even if you watch the ad content, the ad video, it's in a British calf. It's so iconically British, but not from a Peaky Blinders perspective. I don't know if you want Peaky Blinders.
Nah, I'm waiting for the next the next season to come out. Yeah.
But you know, so I think that's just one example. There's so many other brands that, you know, when they get it right, they get it right, but it doesn't always happen that way.
True, sometimes luck is just not on your side. The stars are not aligned, something happens, and then it just so happens that the campaign that you've been planning for the last 9 months coincides with some event and just makes you look bad. I guess you just also, reputation management, you have to come out, apologize early, you know, let them know it wasn't your intention, come out with a new campaign and move on. So I have another example. I think there was one Boohoo. Boohoo. They had this collaboration with Courtney, one of the Kardashians, right? Announcing her as their sustainable.
Your favorite Kardashian?
Courtney. Which one is?
Do you even know the difference?
The younger ones are my favorites.
Okay, what are their names? Name them.
Kendall, the one that doesn't talk.
And then the one that does the what?
That doesn't talk.
That doesn't talk.
Yeah,
just. And what's the youngest one called? Just testing your Kardashian.
The youngest one, I have the kids like Saint and.
No, that's kids. I mean, in terms of Jenner Kardashian.
The boy.
No, oh my god. Clearly.
I failed on the Kardashian quiz.
It's okay.
Tell me, who's the youngest one?
Kylie is the youngest Jenner.
Oh, I thought it was the
boy.
The chunky but funky boy.
I think it's funny because I think when we go back to your earlier question about influencer marketing, that's how people assumed what influencer marketing was. And there was a period of time where it was that. It was very product. Oh, I'm having this gummy. I'm having this tea. This is my hairbrush. And it was very static. It felt like you were just being paid to post this thing. And consumers, you saw engagements were reducing. People didn't care. It felt like very unattainable. But now where creators are your everyday person, and it doesn't feel as polished. It does feel authentic. It feels organic to what they are talking about anyway. I think that's why it's been able to stay and be sustained for so long. I think if we were still in a very product placement, you know, artificially enhanced space when it comes to influencer marketing, it probably, I'm not saying it would died out completely, but I don't think it evolved and continued to have as much ad spend as it does now. I think this year's set to finish at 22.4 billion. Don't quote me, something like that.
No, I did see the numbers. The influencer marketing, you know, the market is set to grow by at least 8% every year for the next 10 years, to a few billion dollars, double digit billions.
Something that started at, if I remember correctly, at around 1.3 billion.
I think that's just the UK market.
From the UK perspective. But if you go count it globally,
if you go to global, it's
like ridiculous. I was like, what? But it's just it just shows you it's not a fad. I think I remember when I kind of not first started, but when I was starting to work with influencers, it was this tiny piece of the budget. Like, oh, we've got like £500 left, or £1,000 left. Let's just
That's
do
crazy.
gifting. Whereas now it makes up a good
huge portion
of
maybe 15.
brands. Yeah, about that.
I think so. I don't think influencer marketing will ever go out of style because, like you said, it's really word of mouth.
Yeah.
You know, it's and
Friend to friend
I feel like brands are doing less and less of big budget TVCs, and then taking out of that TVC budget and then using it for more bite-sized, organic influencer collaborations.
Which is important, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about consumer behavior,
Yeah.
as a brand, and I think this is my challenge with the industry at large, sometimes the decision makers aren't...
They're stuck in the past.
It's not even that. You're not the target audience.
Yeah.
So you're assuming that above the line TV, this big TVC
Is what people want. Yeah.
How many people are going to see that? How many people actually watch linear TV?
Exactly.
I cannot remember the last time I tuned into 1 to 5.
Yeah, I think what the what management, because they're the ones that hold the bag, right?
You manage it.
Yes, but the bag I'm holding is not big.
Yes.
But yes, not that big. Yeah. What older management right forget is that the way we consume content has changed. Like you said, the reason why people really watched ads back in the day was because they had these shows, and then there will be a break, where the ad would play, and most times you will sit in facts. Actually, some of those breaks people will go do other things, get a drink, get comfortable, but those breaks meant that millions of people were glued to your show and they saw your placement. But now you don't have to watch TV on cable. It's basically it's democratic now. Yeah. So I decide what I want to watch. Right. I go on YouTube, I go on TikTok, I go on Instagram or Netflix and watch it. On the paid platforms there are no ads.
Well.
Right. On the free platforms there could be ads, but I could skip them.
Yeah.
I have the option to skip them. So
well, just about like YouTube have got really
the unskippable ads. You have those ones, and that's why you need to think about short content. Yeah. So how can I get my audience's attention in 6 seconds with a bumper ad? So brands need to think about that, and I think that older management just needs to get one of their nephews or their nieces and says, what shall I do here? Honestly, and then just listen to them and forget it.
But I think that's the best. The brands that are getting it right do that, right? They're hiring influencers, content creators, creative directors
into their marketing teams. I'm seeing that now, and I think it's really refreshing.
It makes sense because they know your audience probably better than you know your audience. You know your numbers, and that's fine. You've got your business plan, and that's fine. That's cool. I don't think one person should do everything, but I think brands and businesses need to lean into the people that understand who they're trying to reach, right? And I think that's where that authenticity kind of comes into play. And I think in addition to that, brands can leverage those creators, both from a creative director perspective,
point of view,
but also from a how do I collaborate with this influencer, bring their audience into my audience and create something new. And like UGC content has, like this year, I don't know if you realise or not, all ads, but a lot of the sponsored content that you see on your Instagram is UGC. Yeah. So it's by the creators on behalf of the brand, but the creator's not tagged. They are used as the ad. But to your point, if you want to grab people's attention, they've got 3 seconds. I'm more likely going to watch this because I recognise this face because I follow this face on my feed. Yeah. I'm like, oh, what are they saying? Again, I think we're slowly hitting into territory where it feels very product. So we think brands need to again loosen up a little bit.
Yeah, and just
let your
brand managers too. This is for brand managers. You don't need to splash your product, your logo over everything. We know. Relax. Just chill. Let the influencer do their thing. I read as well that influencers want to be part of the creative process before you even put out the brief and everything. They want to be part of it, and it's important, for you to make them part of it because these are the people that live on the internet. They know the culture, they know the trends. One time recently, because a lot of times I do go through all the content that goes on our agency's page, and then there was this post that they were about to make, and it was one picture, one image, right, of some of our employees, and then it was a carousel post with the same picture but different captions. I was like, why don't you change the pictures?
Images,
like how are you going to use 10 of the same picture?
Image.
And she was like, look, that's how it's done now. I was like,
No.
Send me some examples. And she sent me like 20. I was like, all right, go ahead.
But was it effective?
Yeah.
The same image?
The same image.
With different copies?
Yeah, you don't know what people like, you know,
Okay.
so it's really just about what is cool right now.
Yeah.
I think in the last 3 days, I've been seeing some cool dog. The guy is just cool. The guy is just cool. I'm like, who is this cool dog? And I'm saying that it's the next thing.
It's the next thing. I think, to your point, I think employee generated content, so we say user generated, but employee generated content is really impactful as a business owner.
Yeah, I think so.
Being able to use your employees, because they are the best advocates for your business, right?
It says a lot about your company.
It says, yeah, and I think I've told you offline that I like the content
Thank
that
you.
you guys are doing.
Shout out
follow
to the Purple Starters team.
the Purple Stars
I
team,
never
they're
had to
doing-
push them to
Yeah.
make content. They really
I
love.
get it. They're on
Yeah.
trend. I laugh. I give it a little share, a
Yeah.
little comment. So, well done, guys.
Shout out to you guys.
I think to that point, internal advocates are the best for your brand, right? So Grace Beverly, We Are Tala, is one of her brands. She is a social media. Well, she's a business. I would classify her as a businesswoman.
Okay.
However, she started on socials, social entrepreneur, and she was the face of her brand. And again, it's because, to your point earlier, you have to forefront it. It's not just behind the cameras. Like
Yeah.
you have to believe in your brand. She unfortunately got into trouble because although she's a founder and brand owner, she was still doing it as influencer marketing, and she didn't ever say her work was
Like it was
sponsored or ad.
hers.
So it was a grey area because people were like, well, everyone knows that she's the founder, brand owner, so should she have to say
So she
ad?
owned it.
But how it was being utilized across paid ads and stuff like that, it was sponsored content. So,
Yeah.
and they said, well, if you don't know that she is the brand founder because you're just scrolling on it,
Yeah.
it's misleading. So there's grey areas. I think Stephen Bartlett's also had
It's
a few
definitely grey
controversies
areas because
around
I could
labeling
own a brand and
correctly.
still get paid to work
Yeah.
for my brand. Like,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
I mean, Kevin Hart does it, and I have investors, all of that. Yeah, I can still detach myself from ownership and be one of the paid influencers because I have
Exactly.
influence, but
Yeah.
I guess it's just like narratives and
Yeah.
all of that.
So it's just a fine line, but I think it's really interesting, and I think that's just a really good example of how influencers are becoming brands in themselves. And if I know the general conversation is about the future of influencer marketing,
Yeah.
I think it's going to continue to increase. I think it's going to get to a peak where like it's already, in my opinion, saturated, but I think there's going to be a peak where those that blow, and if you actually drill down, a lot of influencers don't make that much money. The majority make.
How much is a lot of money?
It's all relative.
Come on.
It's all relative.
Tell
but
us.
in terms of, I guess, enough to like earn a full-time living that you don't have to have a 9 to 5.
Like in the UK, so you
You know,
think
like,
like an
let's
average
say-
influencer will make how much a year?
You can't say an average influencer because it varies. It depends on your size. So you can make as little as 3k a post. You can make as much as 300k a post, depending on your size. The 300k a post is a partnership. It's
Yeah.
a long-term piece. So it's how long is a piece of string.
True.
But I think more importantly is the creators that understand who they are, and that's the creators that understand who they are will have longevity in the game.
I was about to say, continuity, longevity is what's important
Yeah.
because getting paid 300k one time throughout your entire 20-year, career as an influencer, it's not going to cut it. So
Hey, listen, 300k is not bad. I wouldn't
For
be saying
20 years.
that
For 20 years.
Not even over 20 years, but still 300k in the grand
that's
scheme
not
of
bad.
things.
It could definitely start you up
It can start you off,
in some other things.
right.
And I like the fact that you spoke about like influencers actually building brands.
Facts.
Mr. Beast is doing that.
Facts.
KSI is doing that.
Kai Sen.
Yeah, Kai
Yeah,
Cenat.
Kai
What's the
Cenat's
name of the American actor? Is it Ryan Reynolds? Ryan Reynolds, yes, Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds used to get paid a lot of money to be, although I wouldn't call Ryan Reynolds an influencer. He's a celebrity, but the fact is that there are influencers bigger than him in terms of like social following. Yes, and basically you can do the same thing. And if you look at music, if you look at anything in the arts, right, you'll find out that the money is really in product, right? So getting paid, getting paid for your time and your image can only get you so far. But if it can use your image and your influence to push products, you can sell products to millions of people over and over again.
100%. And again, looking at influencers that have done this well and transitioned well from a US lens, and then I'll do a UK lens. A US lens is Jackie Aina.
Yes, I know Jackie.
She's been in the game for years.
For years, true.
And she said, and this is a word to influencers coming up, she didn't make money for 5 years. So if you're complaining after 2 years you haven't made money, cool down. Like, it takes a minute. It takes a minute. But once she tapped in and brand deals will come in, like you said, I think she realised, I have an audience here. It's just like any brand, your audience is your data. It's your data set, right? Those are the people that you send newsletters to. Those are the people that you give exclusive deals to, product codes. It's like, actually, I'm always giving my data to brands. Why don't I cultivate my data and create something? She's created her product line, her brand business, Forever Mood. There's the candles. I think there's a few other things that's coming up. The perfume. Toke Makawan from a Nigeria perspective, she kills it. So again, what's the point here? The point is, if you get to a place where you understand your brand, your identity, and you create something that you can push to your audience, that is guaranteed revenue, right? You're not then reliant on a brand partnership to then create something. And another example is Emma Chamberlain, social media influencer on YouTube, just creating vlogs. She tapped into the Gen Z market of coffee. She created her own coffee line, Chamberlain Coffee. She's now partnered with the likes of Starbucks and other baristas and coffee shops to stock her own coffee.
Interesting.
So whilst she's got the YouTube thing, she's making money all the time. Patricia Bright, the list is endless. But to that point is, I always, like, I have a talent management business on the side, and I always tell
what's
the
it
talent,
called?
Create in Colour.
Oh. Sounds really interesting.
Yes, follow, like, share, all that good stuff.
Follow, Create in Colour.
Create in Colour. And I always advise these creators is, what is your brand about, right? What do people... If I can't tell what your brand is about after 2 swipes, I've lost interest. That's one. 2, people don't like to be in niches because they're like, oh, I like to do loads of things. That's fine. No one's saying that you have to do one thing, but be known for that thing and then flex it a little bit, then take that thing into something else. But if you're always chopping and changing,
just all over the place. Yeah, like
even as a consumer, I might
don't
follow
know what you do,
but I might not believe in what you do. Like Melissa's wardrobe, sorry to go back to her, but she's understood premium lifestyle. That is what she's selling you on her page. On her stories, she'll talk, she'll laugh, she'll kiki, do all of that with you. But on her page, on her feed,
premium lifestyle.
Premium lifestyle.
I really believe in niche because the world is so big that no matter what niche you choose, there's probably like 2,000 people all over the world that are really deep into that thing.
Facts.
And if that niche is valuable enough, with just your 2,000 followers, you can make a lot of money. It just depends on the audience and the brands that sell to that audience. So niche down, and you can really
be broad with it. Like if you like home interiors is your thing, you can do different like parts of your house. You can then do interiors of, I don't know, like somebody else's house, or like how an interior of a car. Like it doesn't mean you just do that one thing again and again. You can still broaden out, but at least I know what I'm going to your page for. There's this guy called Jack Design on Instagram. I'm obsessed with his content. What he does every Sunday, he does a Sunday reset where he cleans his whole house. But he's cleaned the most random places, and like because it's like ASMR, but it's like this guy has like over like 3-5 million followers, and he creates the same thing again and again. Repetition is your friend. As a creator, repetition is your friend, because I know this is what I'm getting from you. Does it mean that I can't now clean other things or can't do other things? Of course you can. Does it mean you can't bring brands into your content? Of course you can. But it's in the bubble, it's in the capsule of this is me,
what
this is what I do, what I know.
Yeah.
And as a brand, I don't have time to be sifting through 100 different people. I check hashtags, I check what people are saying. If I can go onto your page and I can see what you're talking about, I'm like, okay, cool, let me do a deal with you. But if I go on your page and I don't know, you're doing other things, and it's very chaotic, it's a harder sell, basically.
It's not clear.
It's not clear.
So, I mean, speaking to the future of influencer marketing, right? So you're saying one of the things we should expect is that influencers would own more of their own brands and push more of their own things, and then you find millionaire, billionaire influencers possibly, potentially. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about the future if we're not talking about AI, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen and I've read of AI influencers, right? I've seen AI influencers in Asia, and from the Sprout report, you know, I think 37% of Gen Z say they're indifferent. You know, like they don't care. Like if it has some entertainment value, they will chop it. You know. So what do you think, you know, is the future of influencer marketing? Do you think AI is going to take over from humans? They have the potential to look better, speak better. Now I use ChatGPT voice. I just speak to it because I don't want to type.
That's how you send emails with incorrect details.
Yeah. And when you get my email and you see the ChatGPT error, you ignore. You just turn your face to the side and say, "Oh, Leia must be busy." But thanks, Chat. And on ChatGPT, when you speak, it just says, "Call me Chat."
Yeah.
So it just say, "Thanks, Chat." So with the AI influencers, they could look better, speak better. You know, it'll cost less. Do you think that, you know, robots, let's just call them robots now, would replace human influencers in 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think AI is such an interesting space, and irrespective of industry, that is the question: will AI replace humans? I would say no, because even AI, it needs human input.
Yeah.
Your AI output is only as good as your human input, right?
Yeah.
As a marketeer, you use your AI to inform information, but you're the consultant that actually understands it in the real world. So therefore, I say AI start, but human, like, cultivated, because you still need that human interaction. That's one. From a influencer perspective, again, I think it's interesting, but it's going to take some time. Sheerlux recently had some backlash. They had an AI head of creative something, I can't remember the exact job title, and it was an AI person, and I think they didn't disclose it, and there was just a lot of backlash. So I think it's still interesting territory. AI is definitely part of the space. From a person perspective, we use it to predict the impact of whether someone's going to perform well before the campaign goes live. So for us, that's revolutionary.
So what is that, a tool?
Yeah, it's a tool.
Tell us, what's the name of the tool?
It's called Decipher.
Okay.
And it takes the subjectivity out of whether or not you think this person is going to perform well, because you can put their information, the creative, the copy, all into the tool, and it will tell you whether or not it will land well with that audience segment, that target audience, which, you know, as a marketer, I can't tell you, but the AI is programmed, scales all of the internet, the data sets to be able to make these predictions. So from a marketing perspective, that's really helpful. But again, I can't just look at this and not analyze it. I still need to say, does this make sense for the brand? It might have a great impact, but is it a positive impact? If you put Trump on a campaign, it can have a massive impact.
But it could be
is
negative.
Trump the right person to have that impact? And is it positive impact or negative impact? And that's where the human consultation is key. Yeah. From an influencer perspective, yes, there are AI robots, but people still want the humanicity of content and stuff. So maybe from an entertainment perspective, was it that woman that was on TikTok for a while that she was like, like she was like, she pretended to be an AI robot?
Oh yeah, that girl. Yeah, it was actually, was that the Nigerian babe?
I can't remember.
Maybe. Oh yes, okay, so it started with an American girl.
Yes.
You know, and she was like, "Oh, slay."
Yes. Yeah, do you remember?
Yes. Oh, slay, hun.
Oh my gosh.
Funny enough, she really blew up.
She did.
She really blew up, and I think she just dropped that and just started getting her bag as a normal human. Like, yes, I'm tired of AI. I'm getting to the bag as myself. Yeah. But so yeah, I think I do agree with you.
It's a balance.
Yeah, but I feel like it still needs a human touch.
Facts.
Right. Perspective. I read somewhere that perspective is what people would pay for, because AI will do the best art, right? But then what is the story behind the art? So there's going to be a lot of storytelling, and it's important that people, you can't look into an AI influencer's past and say, this is what you've been through. I can connect with you because you've experienced these things.
Exactly.
So I totally agree with you on that. I think one of my last questions, because we're really trying to like go into like the future, we want to understand the future, we have to address the elephant in the room, right? A lot of brands, you know, spend money on influencer marketing, and we're like, we didn't make any money. We can't even prove that we made money. So it's twofold, right? How can brands ensure that they get a decent return on investment on their influencer marketing? So that's the first one. And then after that, let's look at the new trend of live shopping.
I was about to say, well, starting with the return on investment, I think, again, you can't look at influencer marketing in isolation. It's interesting that brands still say or have a massive bugbear with that, because can you guarantee the people that have seen your TV content have now gone into the store and purchased it?
Okay, I mean, I see you're comparing now, but let's look at it in isolation.
In isolation. So how? I think there's many different things. Like, what is that consumer journey after they've watched the content? What is the call to action?
Yeah.
Is it to find out more information? Is it that there's a sale? Is it that there's a product? So being able to actually lead your consumers to that conversion better.
The bottom of the funnel.
That's one way. But also, measuring the impact isn't purely conversion. I think there are so many measurement tools, platforms like this, that RFC, which measure your brand sentiment. Like, what do people think about your brand post and pre and post influencer campaign? And I think brands take for granted that sentiment, and how audience feel about a brand is so key to that conversion, because conversion doesn't necessarily happen immediately. But if I feel favorably to a brand, I'm more likely to then want to convert. And it's a long window. I feel sometimes the challenge of influence marketing is that people assume immediately you're going to get that sale, but it's not. It's also, it does a consideration job, it does an awareness job, and is the actual execution or the conversion an immediate thing? If it's a car and you're working with an influencer, that influencer is not going to drive you immediate sales. However, what they can do is talk to a particular product or feature of the car that people that are interested will then go to the showroom or like have it on the back of their mind. I think the average car buying process is about 18 months for people to decide.
That makes sense.
Like, you know, so you've got to also understand, where does this influencer marketing piece fit as part of the wider consumer journey, from awareness down to actual conversion, and then make an informed decision. Like, what is this doing for me at this point, and therefore what am I going to get? What is that ROI? So that's how you have to look at it.
So for growth marketers, I think that you can also, you know, do some attribution modeling to try and see, you know, where your sales are coming from and what channels they're coming from. And for, you know, people in the tech world, I'd always thought about this product, but I think that if it doesn't already exist, you can build a product that sort of like tracks all of the influencers' content, and then of course tracks conversions to see, you know, no matter how the journey has traveled, if somebody saw the content, even if it's 90 days later, it's basically attributing it back to that influencer content, and then calculating how much was bought, and eventually finds out how much, you know, that person bought over their life cycle, would really, you know, give you a broader insight into how your campaigns are performing. So when we talk about live shopping, have you ever shopped live before?
Do you know what? I personally haven't, but it is something that is definitely gonna hit the wave. It already is on like TikTok. If you think about TikTok shop, it just reminds me of old school QVC. Like, or late night shopping, when all the cable channels had finished, they just change over to like this marketeer, this telemarketer, and
they have so many
all the
things
different
out
random
there.
items. But again, it's interesting. Like, Made by Mitchell as a brand has tapped into that phenomenally. His curve case, again, beauty girl, his curve case is sold out every time, because he taps into the live TikTok shopping feed. People buy it immediately. He sells out and he understands. So I think that's going to definitely increase. It's interesting because Asia kind of picked up on that really quickly, but is now filtered through to the West, like the UK and the US. So I think we're going to definitely see an increase in that. And more, I guess, easier or social commerce avenues. I think sometimes it can still feel a bit clunky from Instagram to the brand page, but I think more brands are creating like
more seamless,
more seamless fit for
experiences,
purpose social experiences, so you can buy immediately. And there's more integrations, like a brand like to know it, so that's reward style back end, where you can basically buy the shirt that I'm wearing. So integrations of things like that also will increase the e-commerce piece. So I think it's going to continuously grow. I don't see it downsizing. And it's just being able to tap into it in a way that, again, is culturally relevant. People like the sense of urgency, and I think that's what live streaming does, right? Because like, if you don't get it now, you're going to miss it. And if the product's good enough or people are talking about it enough,
I'm putting it off. Like, you want to take my money. You want to take all my money. I'm tired of shopping. Let's give some advice to brands and influencers, right? Let's talk about partnerships. Sprout's research shows that 93% of influencers consider a brand's existing social content before choosing to work with them. So now this is for the brand. Sometimes an influencer will say, I don't want to work with you. You know, so what can brands do to make themselves more attractive to influencers? And on the flip side, what can influencers do to make themselves more attractive to brands?
So from a brand perspective, it's not every influencer that you need to work with.
Obviously.
Like, you know, the very demure trend, everybody and their dog wanted to work with
I got sick and tired of that thing in a week.
It was crazy, but the very demure trend isn't for every brand.
Very mindful.
Very mindful.
Very cutesy.
Very cutesy. So it's understanding, does this creator resonate with your target audience? Again, it's back to the insight thing. As a brand, what do we stand for? What do we represent? Nike are fantastic at partnering with fantastic talents and celebrities because they have been able to cater to both the masses but also community groups, whether that is more conservative women, Muslim women that want to still swim and enjoy that activity, but they want to wear an item that they still feel honours their religion, and they create like the burqa type of swim and wear. Similarly, in other avenues, so I think what they've been able to cleverly do is understand the subgroups within their wider communities and then partner with influencers that can authentically speak to that. So as a brand, I think you just need to understand who are you trying to speak to? What does your brand actually mean? And then find the creators that can really elevate that and tell that story and trust them to tell that story well. Then from an influence perspective, again, it's understanding who you are. And like I said, if I have to scroll more than three times, I'm like, and I still don't understand. Then it's too much.
Lost me.
I'm as a brand, I'm less likely to want to work with you. I don't think it's all about numbers. More when we think about engagement and impact, smaller influencers drive that. If you think, I always say big influencers, macro, so awareness, it's consideration from a top level. But just because somebody has 50 million followers doesn't mean all 50 million care about that particular thing they're talking about. But if somebody has 5,000 followers and they talk about a particular thing, you know that those 5,000 people care about that thing that you're talking about because that's why they follow you. So there's an avenue for you. You can still make money. You can still curate your audience to ensure that what you're sharing with them is valuable. And then as a brand, when you see that, you're like, okay, I know that if I work with this particular person that talks about, for example, motherhood, that's all they talk about. I have Nala's baby care line, which is
I know that.
I'm going to partner with this person because I know that they trust this creator's advice when it comes to motherhood. And if that's 5,000 people. So if you think about the numbers, right, I've got 5,000 followers and I have an average conversion rate, engagement rate of 10%, versus I have 500,000 followers and I have an average engagement rate of 1%. You know?
Yeah, it's not as great.
It's not as great. So
Wizkid's son just recently got featured in the ad for the Nala's baby. So that's influencer marketing. Catch them young.
The new generation.
And he already has his own page, influence, grown by his mom. So,
Jason, imagine pops and babes.
Good stuff. So I feel like we're getting to the end of the episode. So I just want to ask you a few questions.
More questions?
Yeah, just very, very, very quick questions. Just quick fire questions.
Okay,
let's have
cool.
fun with it.
Let's go. Let's
So,
go.
if you're an influencer, what niche would you focus on?
Oh my gosh, this.
What is this? Like how beautiful you are?
Thank you.
Okay.
No, I think I'd focus on the behind the scenes, like how strategy, and that's what we do at Creating Colour. We help brands, we help creators become brands, because if you're a brand, then you don't need brand partnerships because people want to buy you. So that would be my niche, like how to cultivate your personal brand identity and then sell that.
All right.
But I don't want to be a creator, just to set the record straight.
You already told us your plans. The cat's out the bag. Question 2. What's the one product or brand you'd never endorse, no matter the fee? You have to answer.
I'm not answering that.
Come on.
I can't answer that.
Give us a clue.
I think anything that goes against human rights.
Okay. So, like leather jackets.
No, that's not human rights. Listen, I'm not vegetarian, not vegan. I eat meat. I wear it. So,
all right.
I don't know.
All right, I'll let you
plead the fifth
on that one. Who's an influencer you admire but would never want to swap lives with?
Ooh.
Yeah, because maybe their life is just too chaotic, you know? Too much attention.
Too much attention. Like, I would never want to be famous. I've always said that. So for me, I'd want the bag, but not the fame. I think Chris Brown, I really admire. I know that's random because he's a celebrity more than an influencer, but I think he's probably one of the greatest,
most troubled,
like celebs. Like his music, to me, is phenomenal, and he's so good, so talented. But I would never want to trade
all the trouble.
Yeah, all the trouble.
Yeah, recently he was supposed to have a concert in South Africa, and it was sold out in minutes. And next thing, there was like this petition against him, like count.
Whatever it is. So
brother has a hard life.
Answer, but like that's the first one that comes to mind.
Last question, in one sentence, describe the future of influencer marketing.
It is powerful.
That's the sentence.
That's the sentence. The future of influencer marketing is powerful. Don't underplay it. Invest in it. Invest in good teams. Invest in good creators. Invest in good data, tech, and ideas. And then you'll see on both sides a real impact.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Shax. This has been awesome.
This is so good.
Shaki, Director of Influencer Marketing, UK and the whole EMEA. Burson is like a global advertising conglomerate or group, by the way, you know, dealing billions of dollars in ad spend yearly. So, you know, Shaki is not small. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming to the show, Culture Connect. And thank you, everyone, for watching. You know, go on our YouTube at Purple Stardust or at Intense Group UK to watch our own other episode. We only have one episode apart from this one. So this is the second. So this is special. Yes, and you know, follow us on social media at We Are Purple Stardust or at Intense Group UK to catch more. What Culture Connect does is just try to bridge the gap between marketing, trends, culture, pop culture, which is basically music, movies, everything that you do everyday life. How do you connect the dots, you know, to then take this into business and make people buy your products and make, you know, things move? Like, how do you use that to affect consumer behavior? That's just like what we're trying to figure out. And of course, influencer marketing is a big part of that. And thank you so much for shedding light on everything influencer marketing. And, you know, hopefully we'll be looking to like have you again, talk about something else very soon.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.